The Last of Us 2 is a game that personally I don't think got nearly enough love. The game is only a few months old and I've seen quite a few people come around to it, but there's two sides of this very strange spectrum that comes with this game. The first side is that of the critics, which received it generally well. It has pretty favorable reviews overall. But then again, if there's one thing game critics have proven, it's that you can't totally trust them. And then there's the opposite end, which was more so the consumer market, that received it pretty poorly. Like, it was really bad. Before the game came out, there was a massive leak, and I had just about every major plot point spoiled for me, and that left me hating the game before I had even played it. I thought, what could they possibly be doing with this game? What is the point? And this is all dumb, and it doesn't make sense, and it's just a cash grab, and it's just for shock value, and it's all, it's just so bad. After about 2 months or so, I decided to take the plunge and just try the game. So I got it, and I loved it. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. In my opinion, it's a full-on masterpiece. But this isn't a review. I guess it is kind of in a sorts because you get the idea of how I feel about the game, but it's not a review. There are more than enough reviews that you can go out and watch or read, and I'm sure you've heard enough opinions about the game. None of these reviews, either pleasant or unpleasant, whether it's a 10 out of 10 or a 0 out of 10, none of them talk about this core idea that runs through the game, this idea being morality. More specifically, how this game deals with morality in context of the modern day that we're living in. So let's start with the thing that upset people the most: Joel's death. When you find out that Joel dies, obviously your first reaction is to be very, very upset. This is one of the most beloved video game characters in history. But that statement right there is entirely the point. Not only does it set the game in motion, and without Joel's death there would be no plot, but the reaction to Joel's death further proves the game's own point and own stance on morality. See, Joel believes himself to be a virtuous person. We see this demonstrated quite a few times throughout the first game. He thinks he has his head on straight, and then he's got a direction, and he's going with it. And because 99% of the first game's story is seen from Joel's perspective, we also adopt this perspective, because it's framed to make you think like Joel. You're seeing everything happen as Joel sees it. Therefore, because Joel saw himself as a good person, we also saw Joel as a good person. Like, you wouldn't get upset if a villain died. Nobody cares when the villain dies. I mean, some people care, but they're not upset by it because most of the time you think they had it coming. And so already this visceral reaction proves the game's own point of what our view is on certain people. It's skewed towards certain people that we spend time with and that we know better than these other people, which is only natural. There's nothing wrong with that. But then you have this anger that came after Joel's death. The anger being towards Abby, the killer of Joel. That visceral reaction towards Joel's death, because we perceived him to be a good person, followed by that anger towards Abby, because we perceive her to be a bad person, is what's necessary to bring us down to Abby and Ellie's level. Abby and Ellie switch places, or rather, mirror each other. Immediately after Abby has finished her murderous rampage, which we see come to a conclusion at the beginning of the game, that sends Ellie onto another murderous rampage, therefore continuing this cycle of violence, as the director of the game, Neil Druckmann, would describe it. Both parties here believe themselves to be 100% wholly in the right. The other person is going to get what they deserve, because That's how they view what the other person deserves. And Joel did the same thing. All three of them are one and the same. The idea that anybody in this game is definitively morally right or morally wrong is the polar opposite of the entire point of the game. There is no right or wrong side. It is 100% wholly based on perspective, because perspective can reach way farther than people think it can. Both of them are placed in this extreme situation doing extreme things to right the other person's extreme wrong. Ellie is sitting there wondering, how could someone as
heinous
and disgusting and out of their mind like Abby could even exist? All while going on a rampage, killing the people she thinks are worse than her. And Abby thought that exact same thing about Joel. How could someone so awful even continue to exist? There must be no redeeming qualities in this person. This man killed my father, murdered an entire hospital full of people, and killed countless more along the way. How is he still even allowed to live? But as we see from playing through the first game, we thought that Joel was a good guy because we were caught up in his worldview. But then looking at Joel from Abby's worldview makes him seem like a monster. And then looking at Abby from Ellie's worldview makes her seem like a monster. How could any of them possibly be in the right? Is there a definitive right here? And we see this echoed through every group of people in this game. The Scars, the WLF, the people of Jackson. They're all doing what they think is best for humanity, as if there's some kind of definitive end-all be-all. That there's some kind of conclusion that they will bring the world to. To the Scars, the WLF and the people around them are the scum of the earth. And to the WLF, the Scars and the people around them are the scum of the earth. And so on. Where does it end? There are infinite perspectives and worldviews to take in here, just as in real life. Every single person gets caught up in their own worldview, the things that surround them, just as we got caught up in Joel's worldview throughout the first game. And the goal here is to try to take us from one worldview to another and then to another. So you get this grand idea of just how strange morality can be. Go on to any controversial or political topic on Twitter, and you will see this exact dynamic going on every minute, every hour, every second of every day without anyone involved realizing that they too are contributing to this cycle of violence. Social media culture has embedded this idea in people that there is always a definitive right and a definitive wrong. It's not a worldview, it's right and it's wrong. Even seemingly evil people are human too. Again, Abby saw Joel as evil because his actions were evil, but we didn't see Joel as evil. We saw him as a caring, loving, flawed person. This game is so important to our current society because it tries to disprove this notion that social media has installed in people. The world is seemingly more divided than ever. Not because the world has changed all that much, it's because our notion of the world has changed, and our notion of morality has changed. Now, this isn't to say that there are no definitive right or wrongs. It's important to stand for something, it's important to believe in something, but you shouldn't dehumanize another person because their worldview is drastically different. Just as you wouldn't want Abby to dehumanize Joel. And so in that sense, we see ourselves in Ellie's place. The media and social media all want you to believe that we're all way more different than we are similar. So that one day they might conquer us and control every idea that we have. And if Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and this game and the reactions it's received has proven one thing, it's that you can bet your ass it's working.